Peace. I was trying to play the Prince song. I might close it out with that. I got my brother Josh in the building. Hold on, I need to.
Peace, family. Hey, did y'all put in the chat if you could hear the Prince song?
I don't think they could hear it.
Oh, they don't think they can hear it? You want to play that again? That song is
that song is fine. Look, we gonna open up with this song, y'all. We gonna set the tone. So I want to open up with this song. I want this to set the tone. My brother Dr. Logic. For those that don't know, my brother is in the army, and he had an issue tonight, so he had to take care of that, and he couldn't be on. But this conversation was really sparked. He really went in. He's our political mind on the team. So we was going in earlier, and I really wanted him to share a lot of what he had on his mind, and yesterday as well. So me and my brother Josh is gonna hold it down. Hopefully, my brother Ali Bey will come on in a few minutes, but we're gonna go and we're gonna play this Prince song. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, today is his birthday, so it's just perfect. And I've never heard this song before. On top of that, so let's get into it.
When will we be paid for the work we've done? When will we be paid for the work we've done? We fought in your wars in every land to keep this country free, y'all. Women, children, and men. But anytime we ask for pay or loan, that's when everything seems to turn out wrong. Police dogs. We've been beat up, called names, shot down and stoned. Every time we do right, somebody say we're wrong. Tell them, when will we be paid for the work we've done? When will we be paid for the work we've done? Listen, we work this country from shore to shore. Women cooked all your food, washed all your clothes. We picked cotton and laid the railroads near. Worked our Marines down to the bone. And your lover man, tell me, when will we be paid for the work we've done? When will we be paid for the work done? Will we ever be proud of my country, 'tis of thee? Will we ever sing out loud, land of liberty? When will we be paid for what we've done? Replace rotten cross. I wanna know, I wanna know, I wanna know, I wanna know, when will we be paid for we've done? Oh, when will we be paid for we've done?
Whew, that was a. I just got caught up in the moment. I didn't grow up Christian. I grew up 5%er, but that was about the closest thing to a come to Jesus church moment I think I done ever had. So, whew, rest in power to Prince, man. One of the greatest artists to ever do it, man. That has to be the new gospel song. That's like the old Negro, the new Negro spiritual. When will we get paid for the work that we've done? Sheesh. See, I never knew Prince made that song. Never heard it before.
Till today,
Till today. So, look, we're going to start this thing off. Like I said, one of my brothers is not here. Two of my brothers is not here right now, but one of my brothers had an emergency, my brother, Dr. Logic. So, we're going to have us a discussion about reparations being the hill that we must die on as a people. You know, as we look at what's going on in the world today, right? Let me come in real quick. As we look at what's going on in the world today, and we see these protests, and they're international. They're not just American, right? We're the spark of it, because really ADOS, we are the people that have shaped culture all over this world, period. We are the people that have shaped culture all over this world, from our music. I mean, you're not going to find too many movies that don't have some old school throwback Motown theme in it. And if you do hear a track that don't have one, 9 times out of 10, it was a song that was stolen from an old ADOS artist anyway. Hip hop, everything that you hear is hip hop. I seen a post where somebody said Fox News, when they go to some of their segments, is using like a hip hop type beat. Now, you see what I'm saying? These are the same people that was railing against the music 20, 30 years ago. Now, we see that we have been influencers of the world. Those that know my background know that I study the Moorish history. I follow the Moorish prophet Noble Drew Ali, and I understand that we here in the United States of America are an amalgam of different tribes from Africa that created a new bloodline here in the United States of America. And some of that bloodline got European Americans in it, or whom you all call white people, right? And tonight we're going to get into a discussion about why we must use, somebody put Rush Limbaugh plays the Temptations during his breaks. You see, like, so I'm just saying, we influence culture all over the world. What we're looking at and what we see with, and I'm going to specifically speak to the United States right now, is the citizens here standing up against police brutality, standing up against racism. And I'm talking about all of the citizens who are, regardless of their skin tone. But my message to the quote unquote white people, and that's going to be our next show, we're going to really delve into white allies. We're going to give our perspective on that and how they can help, right? And how they can be of assistance. But like my brother Josh made a post on Facebook a couple days ago that said, we're going to need y'all to keep that same exact energy when we're asking for reparations. Like, when will we get paid for the work that we've done? And our new cry, it can't just be no justice, no peace. Because us not being repaired, us not being made whole, insofar as we are sharing in the economic greatness of this country, is injustice. Every single day it is a crime committed against my people. Every single day. So And we seem to have found peace with that. But that shouldn't be the case. We should never have peace with injustice. And every single day that a young brother has to sell drugs, or a sister has to strip, or prostitute herself, or rob or steal because they just grew up in an environment that lacks money, that's not a criminal element that is confined just to the neighborhoods that we grew up in. That is an American criminal element, because what they did by boxing us out of opportunity was caused the condition for the criminal element in the first place. And it is said that the top is only a reflection of what's at the bottom. And we see that clearly. So we're going to need, like I said, that's going to be our next show, those people called white in America, to keep that same energy. And no justice, no peace should flip to no reparations, no vote, because it is the only cure for everything that's going on, from police brutality to the crime that goes on in our neighborhood. And I have to say, most of the times it's crime of necessity. People got to eat. The first law of self-preservation is survival. We learn this when we're young. People are going to eat by any means necessary and do whatever they have to do to keep a roof over their heads. So you can't blame the hood. You know, you hear that sucker line. There's a bunch of suckers out there that say, you know, why we don't protest for black on black crime, and well, we're in a different day now. We got a different level of information now. Those words should never come out of anyone's mouth, because if you don't understand why, then you are a part of the problem. So I want to bring my brother Josh back in. And I just wanted to give an opening monologue. Yeah, bro, go in and give a little intro.
Yeah, man. You know, for those who don't know, by the way, if you're watching this video, please hit the like button. Please hit the little bell to subscribe, and please share this with people, all your people. Just share this with everybody, because I think this is a message that we really need to take hold of right now, like immediately. We need to, for those who don't understand. Well, if you look at the title of the show, Reparations is the hill that we must die on. Of course, we're not talking about just fighting for reparations aimlessly and just, with no direction and no cause and nothing like that till we die. But what we're talking about is this needs to be the war cry. This is not something, this is a temporary thing we're going to ask for this week. And then when we don't get it, or we don't get it from Joe Biden or Trump this time, then it's over with. Nah. And what we're going to share with you is why we put the title of the show this way. Not only why we put it this way as far as the advocacy we need to have, but we're going to highlight some things that happened historically to show you why, that if you don't believe we deserve justice for that, something's wrong with you. You're not, I don't know. You really have to understand the history. And also, we're going to show you through the economic data that there is no other solution that can close this racial wealth gap. So if you don't understand about the racial wealth gap, there's $100 trillion, 107 trillion. This is as of 2016, and this is Federal Reserve data. Okay, there was $107 trillion worth of wealth in America. Out of that 107 trillion, white America owns 90% of that, 100 trillion. Black America, and by the way, Black America, we're talking about the vast majority of Black America, about 90% of that population descends from American slavery, where you have a population of people who built the country with their blood and their bones, who most of us descend from. Yet, so we're foundational in the country, yet we don't have any type of foundational, there's no evidence of us being foundational as far as when you look in the economy. You know, we only control about 2% of the wealth, less than 3% of the wealth we control, okay? And we're about 13 to 14% of the population. So that's the supreme injustice. If you think about like, and you have to connect the history to bring context to that number. And that's kind of what we're going to do. And lastly, one thing that we're going to do is we're going to let you understand that if you do not fight for reparations in this moment and moving forward, hey, other groups are going to co-opt the energy from this and transform that into policy proposals. And when it comes to being at the table, that agenda is going to be at the table, and reparations and specific agenda to fix the injustice. That is the main reason why you're seeing this police brutality. That's the main reason why you're seeing us getting killed in the street and with impunity for those that are doing the killing. We're not getting justice. You're going to see that that's going to continue. And my fear is, at Josh Gray _L for Instagram, on Twitter is just Josh Gray L. But my fear is that there's so much energy around Black Lives Matter. And that phrase alone is very powerful because it commands something in not just us, but in other groups, white folks and other groups here, to say, yes, our lives do matter. Like, to think that our lives don't matter is shameful. You know, when you get down to it, when you see something happen like George Floyd getting killed, or you hear about Breonna Taylor getting killed in her sleep, you see George Floyd, the man getting, a knee to his neck for long periods of time, even way after he's already dead, the knee still to his neck. And they see the brutality, and they can say, man, that is powerful. Black lives do need to be matter, because we haven't shown them that they matter. And you can get other groups behind that. But if you don't tell them that how you show us that it matters is you give us justice. And you're not giving us justice if you don't fix the reason why we're at the bottom. See, this thing has got to be about lifting us off the bottom. It can't be about class-based politics where we get some type of additional benefit and we done built this whole thing. We done built it to where we done fought and bled and died to the reason why everybody else can come over here. It can't be the way you can do class politics, progressive policy that helps everybody, but it doesn't address. So everybody, when the rising tide lifts all the boats, understand you got to have a boat. You know, and if the few of us that got life rafts and driftwood and all that kind of stuff we on, see, most of us are crabs, but the few of us that have driftwood, we shouldn't have driftwood. Like, this thing needs to be about taking us away from being the bottom that undergirds everything else. There's no pathway to whiteness for us. So that's what we're talking about. Economic justice, that needs to be the cry that comes out of this whole thing. And that needs to be what we need to be, pushing moving forward. So I'm going to send it back to my brother, Naheem, because I'm sure he has some history that he wants to dive in on. I'm going to come in behind that with some of the economic data as well as some history and just, highlight a few things that we need to, I think, is slipping through the cracks in this conversation.
Definitely. I wanted to pull this screen back up. I want to highlight what my brother Josh was talking about when he said we are 14% of the population, but own less than 3% of the wealth. When you look at this pie chart, everybody, I want you to just look at this thing. That blue represents white household wealth, using that name. It's not a name I use, but for the sake of popular usage in the audience, y'all know what I'm talking about. I call them the European or European Americans, right? And I don't necessarily use the term black either. I call us Moors for those that do know, but that's neither here nor there. I'll say that to say we got to start moving out of this racial stuff. That I think that's a part of it. The psychology of it. We in the Moorish movement call it European psychology. I think we have to start moving out of that. That also is a problem, and I touched on that in the last show. Check out the last video we did, whiteness from Confederates, from the Crusades to Confederates to the cops. But this image right here shows us that red sliver, y'all can see that little red sliver represents black wealth. $3 trillion. So this pie chart shows 107 trillion. I believe that number is now 112 trillion, if I'm not mistaken, right? And that little red sliver says $3 trillion. The green sliver says 4 trillion. This is the wealth distribution by race in America, right? The European has $93 trillion worth of wealth. We have 3 trillion. Others, meaning foreigners, have 4 trillion. We've been here since 1619. We were enslaved as chattel in the 1700s. As an overall system, that began in the 1700s. Yet and still, our slice of the pie is far less than even the foreigners who have come over here. This is an egregious infliction upon the lives of our ancestors and those of us who are living right now. So let me stop sharing this. I want to get into some things real quick, right? This is a video because I know I had some things prepared. My Microsoft Word application is messed up, but I want to get into something. I want to show why we have to get in front of this movement. Why we got to stop letting people talk for us that don't have any real solutions, but claim that they have our best interest at heart. And yet, decade after decade after decade, they've not moved the needle one bit. So I want to go to this video. Hold on. This is Brother Nuri Muhammad. I'm going to use him as the spokesperson real quick. And this is something that Brother Ben X brought up, and everybody knows that that Brother Ben X is not somebody that's on my favorite list. So
we are the only people on the planet that blame the white man for 95% of our problems, but still spend 97% of our money with them. We, the black people, we are the leaders in unnecessary spending. You know what unnecessary spending is? It's by
wait, hold on. My bad, family. My bad. I don't know. I'm having some issues, family. Just bear with me. Bear with me.
We are the only people on the planet that blame the white man for 95% of our problems, but still spend 97% of our money with them. We, the black people, we are the leaders in unnecessary spending. You know what unnecessary spending is? It's buying stuff you don't need with people with money that you don't have from people that you don't even like to impress people that you don't even know. So that's us. So I'm saying that to say that let's put an end to retail therapy.
I'm going to stop it right there. I mean, obviously, we've been hearing this rhetoric for so long. We've been hearing this rhetoric for so long. The European has conditioned us to believe that our economic shortcomings is somehow our own fault. And it's so good that we have economists in this space right now that are pushing reparations hard, like Sandy Darity. So what I want to do is I want to go to Darity's collaborative works that he did with Brother Tone and a host of other economists, etc. And it's called What We Get Wrong About Closing the Racial Wealth Gap. And I want to read something for you all. So hold on. Let me read this. All right. It says, all right, make sure y'all can see that. Okay, cool. Where am I? Okay. It says, nonetheless, this is page 22 of that PDF. It says, nonetheless, the conventional wisdom has it that blacks in search of immediate gratification lack self-control and are plagued uniquely by a culture of frivolous consumerism. This belief was magnified by Ronald Reagan's use of the welfare queen trope during his campaign, and recently via internet financial gurus pushing images of Black America spending money on Jordan brand Nike shoes rather than household needs. Yet, the empirical evidence indicates that it has not been the case historically, nor is it the case today, that Blacks are more financially wasteful than whites. So, you know, I've had battles with brothers that I've been cool with for the past, I mean, probably 10 years or better about this same issue, and they've never put up a good defense. And I say that to say that, like, we got to stop listening to people like Nuri Muhammad, man, and the Nation of Islam, because this thing that we're dealing with is political. It is a political fight. And Martin Luther King Jr., he understood that fight. And I hope I answered the sister's question, because she spoke about this economic boycott, somebody in the chat. And that clip was a part of a video speaking about that same thing. Now, the Nation of Islam has been calling on this type of thing for decades now, and it's never happened, and it's never happened effectively. But if you go back and you pull up Dr. King's Operation Breadbasket, you'll see that his boycotting worked, because it put pressures on the local businesses to stop unfair hiring practices, to share in the business wealth of our people so that they could open up stores, et cetera, in certain regions. That worked. We need to start listening to people like that. This whole idea, and that happened when I was on Sarnetta one night, and I jumped on their live stream with King Face and Brother Polite, and I had to like prove to them that this idea that Blacks have this wealth that we could just all chip in, which is what you hear Master P saying when he's talking about buy the blocks. Brother, we don't have wealth to buy the blocks. It's easy to stand out there as a millionaire and say that. It's like a workout video, right? The dude is already ripped and chiseled, and he's already cut up, or she, and they're doing exercises perfectly, and they're trying to convince you that you can do it just like they're doing it right in the moment. It don't work that way. It doesn't work that way. That's just not how wealth works. And this is why, you got Al Sharpton in November, who will be leading some type of march or rally. I believe it's in Washington, D.C. These are the people that they trot out in front of us, who have a voice, a real voice, so that the movement could get put back to sleep, so that progress can be stopped. And we have to be out there. So I know I'm going to be out there, ADOS. I'm gonna have my signs and all that. I'm trying to link up with the ADOS family out there. There's already been some chatter on Twitter. We got to make sure that the politicians know that reparations is the hill that we are going to die on, period. You talk about starting Black business. Brother Josh, do you have that stat from Darity that speaks about Walmart and how much Walmart compare Walmart alone just to all the Black businesses combined?
Hey, hold on, I'm about to bring it up so y'all can read it. Hold on, let me share the screen real quick. By the way, y'all, an essential read is From Here to Equality by Dr. Sandy Darity.
Oh, definitely.
Kirsten Mullen. So that's That's an essential read. We're gonna have that as a part of our book club. I'm sure Yvette and Tone will have it, or Yvette will have it as a part of the Breaking Brown book club eventually. But we're gonna do the Bloody Shirt, and I know we're gonna hit that Dr. Darity book on that.
Oh yeah.
But let me bring up this that you're asking for right now. Hold on. Let me see here. Share this here. All right. Can y'all see it?
Yep, it's up.
See right here. It says another manifestation of America's huge and growing wealth divide is evident in the scale and type of Black corporate ownership. The major Black-owned businesses, retailers, and service providers primarily garner less than half of 1% of the country's total corporate retail sales. Let me say that again. The major Black-owned businesses, retailers, and service providers primarily garner less than half of 1% of the country's total corporate retail sales. In 2014, the top 100 Black firms identified by Black Enterprise magazine grossed slightly less than $30 billion as a group. In comparison, the top revenue generating owned corporation, Walmart, grossed 482 billion, 16 times the combined revenue of the top 100 Black-owned firms. Walmart's gross revenues were more than 1/2 of the total incomes received by all Black Americans during the same year. Let me say that again. Walmart's gross revenues were more than 1/2 of the total incomes received by all Black Americans during the same year. Not just Black businesses, all Black folks.
Wow.
Furthermore, in 2014, even Nike, which ranked 91st on the Fortune 500 list with an estimated revenue of $30 billion, grossed more than all of the top 100 Black-owned businesses. Americans, let me go over. Let me just do this real quick because I had another piece. Oh no, that was it. We can go further along with that topic, and I got another piece of the economic data I wanted to share, but I'm gonna let you finish your thought on that.
Hey, I mean, look, when you look at those numbers and you start to put into perspective what it is that we're dealing with, Walmart alone grossed more than our collective incomes. Forget just Black businesses. Like, we got a family. We have to really understand that we are at such a disadvantage. And if we don't get out there, nothing is ever going to change. Like, we have to become the politicians. We have to do all of these different things. And if reparations is not at the tip of your tongue, I'm not supporting you, first and foremost. I was listening to this one sister. She's a Republican. I ain't gonna call her name right now, but if she's listening, I hope she knows that I'm speaking about her. She was on Sanetta's show too. And she was talking about the same thing. We got to put all our money together. We just got to chip in. When has chipping in ever worked? When? Who's going to chip in and chip into where? Real quick. When we were freed after slavery, chip in and put parts of our earnings into the Freedmen Bureau's bank. And what happened to that money? They took that money. They took it. They looted it. That was a looting. For those people that say we shouldn't be looting Target and Walmart. What that sister said that's down with T.I. from Atlanta about that mall. What was the name of that mall? She was like, that mall ain't never done nothing to y'all.
Lenox Mall, I mean.
Lenox Mall, yo. Like, what are you talking about? These people looted us. We got to understand that there's only one fight left. because this one fight, reparations means justice. The opposite of poverty is justice. Point blank, period.
Yo, y'all gotta see that. Y'all gotta see that movie. We're gonna do something on that movie.
Oh yeah, we're gonna start doing movie reviews too, along with book clubs, man. We're gonna start doing some of these movie reviews. Just Mercy, he's talking about. But yeah, go ahead, brother Josh, add in on that.
Yeah, I wanted to say to the sisters, right? So you notice, just y'all need to stay alert because they do this all the time. When I say they, I'm just talking about whoever's doing it. I don't know where they stand or what associations they may have. Usually it's somebody that's looking for some type of level up with amongst the Democratic establishment machine. But let me just tell y'all, they try to divide us along gender lines, along all these other lines. See, when we say reparations is the hill we die on, we're talking about, like, if you want to get to a destination which is justice, which is really just being American, which they always talk about equality, but you can't have equality until you do reparations. Like you can't until we get justice, until we get made whole. It's not going to be you can't have a chance for equality. You know, the statistic came out that it would take 228 years for Black wealth to catch up to white wealth.
That's right.
Still. But guess what? If I don't have the statistic in front of me. Somebody help me. But if you look at like the next furthest away group from white wealth, which is Latino wealth, I believe it's like less than half of the time, like maybe like 160 years, or I mean, something like that, 100 years, 100, maybe less than that. But my point is that we got to stop looking for these off ramps. So there's no off ramp in LGBTQ. There's no off ramp in being in Moorish American. You looking to have some type of special privileges and think you don't have to fight this fight because you're Moorish American. There's no off ramp in give me some other off ramps. Help me out. There's no off ramp in feminism.
Yeah.
No off ramp in feminism.
You
right here with this stat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about to share the screen. I'm gonna show you right here. I'm gonna read this. This is from Dr. Darity book, and you notice I'm sharing a lot from his book. That's because he hit all of this stuff.
Man. I can't wait. I actually started listening to it on Audible. I'll be reading so much books and my mind just be all over the place some days. I can't. And then I got a bunch of new books that keep coming in the mail. So on top of that.
How you got to do, man. It's that part of that responsibility when we.
All right. Y'all please pay attention to this. Go ahead, bro. It
says, nor do the differences in family structure provide headway in explaining the Black-white wealth inequality. Because understand it, the trope is a lot of time, well, it's because the Black fathers are not there, and the Black women, she got to do this and that. Okay, don't let them divide us that way. We can get into why the family structure has been destroyed or has been hurt through racist policy. But let me just continue reading. It says, single white women with children have as high a median net worth as Black women with no children. Single white parents have more than 2 times the wealth at the median of married Black parents. That's $35,000 to $16,000. The professed economic benefits of having the ideal family do not translate into the closure of the racial wealth gap. Being a stable married two-parent Black family is far from evens Black and white wealth levels. I don't think I said that right. Being a stable married two-parent Black family far from evens Black and white wealth levels. Okay. Furthermore, there are vast differences in wealth between Black and white women. For example, over 60 years of age, single Black women with a bachelor's degree have a median net worth of about $11,000, while single white women with a college degree in the same age range have $384,000 in median net worth. Single mothers have a negligible wealth, but the racial difference is still palpable. White single mothers have a median net worth of $3,000, but Black single mothers have a median net worth of $0.
Damn.
While young adult 20 to 29-year-old single white women who have completed college have a median net worth of $3,400. Single Black women of a similar age and level of education have a median net worth of negative.
$11,000. I had to just finish that for you because that is outstanding, and not in a good way, in a bad way. Like these.
So I gotta read this last piece, even though
go ahead, brother. Go ahead, brother.
The report on the racial wealth gap from prosperity now concludes. The greatest socioeconomic disparities for most women of color are rooted in racial inequality, which is then worsened by smaller but significant gender disparities. It follows that within the most economically disenfranchised racial and ethnic groups, such as Blacks and Latinos, gender disparities are usually much smaller than among whites. In other words, let me finish it, then I'm gonna bring it together. African American women and Latinas experience greater gender economic equality within their racial ethnic groups. However, this parity is more an equality in economic disenfranchisement than in equality in economic well-being. In other words, what they're saying is like, I have to gather that again. That was heavy. When I read it the first time, I had to read it like 3 or 4 times to get it. But basically, they're saying like, look, the gender gap is intra-race is terrible, but like you don't the real terribleness is like the external the gender gap that's racial, the racialized external gender gap. So stop trying to think that there's an off-ramp for you in feminism. Stop trying to think that there's an off-ramp for you. When I say off-ramp, the road leads to reparations, right? We're on the road to justice. And a lot of times what happens is it's potholes in the road. You know, it's a long trip. You like when the kids screaming in the back, "Mama, we there yet? Daddy, we there yet?" And you just like, man, I just can't take this no more. I'm tired of being on this road. I'm tired. I need to get to a hotel. I'm hungry. I need to get some food. So you get off on the off ramp for a little while, and then you're like, shoot, at least I don't have to drive on this road. Then you get off there, and you for a little while, you kind of having fun. You in the club, you partying or whatever. You go to a nice restaurant, and then like you get sleepy. And you're like, okay, well, I need to seek refuge. I need to get some shelter. And then they said, well, we appreciate your business and we appreciate you, having a good time, whatever. But you ain't got to go home, but you got to get up out of here. Because see, it's not about like when it comes down to it, the thing that we have all in common, just like I just read, was economic disenfranchisement is the commonality. It's not the commonality. It's not the solidarity of being LGBT. It's not the solidarity of being a feminist. It's not the solidarity of being people of color. It's not the solidarity. When it comes down to it, you're still going to be at the bottom.
Facts.
The hierarchy, you're going to be at the bottom. The way to correct that is
to stay on that road real quick. I didn't mean to cut you, bro. I want to address something real quick. I got to share this sister's comment. She said, we have to get sisters on board with this. Meet them where they are. You're not going to get many of them on board by shaming them. I think you misunderstand.
Oh, yeah.
Like, first and foremost, all of our people, all of us who are ADOS need to be shamed if we're not on board with pushing the economic plight of our people. And as my brother Josh was saying, trying to redirect this conversation like that guy, I don't even know his name, and I don't really care to know his name. Let me be easy. But try to make this some LGBT thing. The fact of the matter is,
that dude, yeah, I know.
Yeah, you could be LGBT, right? I might not agree with that lifestyle at all. I don't. Let me just say, but that's my personal opinion. Just like that's a person's personal choice. I'm not here to judge nobody. I'm not here to judge you. The fact of the matter is, you're as an LGBT person still grouped in with the rest of us who are at the bottom in this country. Your being LGBT doesn't give you a pass to leap over the social status that we currently occupy in this nation. So it's not about shaming women, or it's not about shaming LGBT people in particular, but everybody who is an American descendant of slavery should feel ashamed if this is not what they're pushing. There should be no other there should be no conversations about LGBTQ or ADOSness. Or feminism. And so far as what we're trying to push for reparations, I don't want to see anybody get beat down because of their sexual orientation or anything of that nature. That's anti-Islamic. Whether I agree with it or not, it's still anti-Islamic. So, I mean, that's not what we're doing here. But my brother, Dr. Logic, is in the building. Yo, what's good, bro?
Peace.
I don't know what you caught or how much you.
I just hopped on. I didn't catch anything.
All right, so we started off playing that Prince song. What was the title, Josh? When will I get paid? Or something?
When will we be paid?
When will we be paid? We started off with that. We just basically got into a discussion. My Microsoft Word application won't pop up, so I can't even pull up none of the stuff that I have compiled. But what I did do was I played a video of Nuri Muhammad of the Nation of Islam, talking that same nonsense that we got to stop spending our money on useless stuff. Then I went to what we get wrong about closing the racial wealth gap. Shut that argument down real quick, because who are you going to listen to? Nuri Muhammad? What do you specialize in besides preacher man hype? Or are you going to listen to the economists and the lawyers that are putting this thing together? I'm going to listen to them. I'm not going to listen to anybody that's screaming preacher man hype, saying a bunch of good sounding stuff that doesn't move anything. It's useless.
Can I address the sister real quick? Because I just wanted to say,
go ahead, brother.
The sister, Scarlet Windmill. I was just trying to show the data. we're not trying to shame anybody or make anybody feel marginalized or whatever.
What's that in regards to? What's going on?
Oh, because I brought this. I was sharing the data about the wealth levels of white women and black women, single black women, and different age levels and things like that. And I was just trying to show them that, if you look at it, feminism is just one of the off ramps that divert you off of the highway that leads to the long cross global, road to equality and justice, reparative justice. And so I was just trying to show the wealth levels. So to show like how that they try to use gender to divide us. And what we're trying to say.
Can I speak to that real quick?
Everybody on the same page as far as getting onto the road, and not let them use. There's a legitimate argument within gender, like within disparities with women, but that's a separate argument, and that's like there is no. Just understand when you get up in it, it's not going to be any unity within the feminism, because then you really want to show how that feminism movement got started. If you look at one of the matriarchs of that, it was Susan B. Anthony. Just go and look at some of her statements. I don't want to spend too much time on bringing it up, but just go Google some of her statements when she talked about, look, if it comes to giving the white man or the white woman policy or anything, and the black woman, give them nothing, they're animals, stuff like that. So that's the whole thing. When I was just trying to show, like, there has to be solidarity with black folks. Don't let them divide us on the gender line. That's
right, or any other line.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when we're talking about the lines, right, we have to understand what the line is. And the title of the show, Reparations, is the hill that we must die on. You must understand that reparations is synonymous with justice. So what we're saying is justice is the hill is that we are going to die on, that we're going to die fighting about. We're going to die fighting about justice. You understand that? So when we frame it that way, you don't have to bring up the gender line or any other type of line, because justice is the all-encompassing line that defines it all. And it defines every fight that we have. So if you are in line with justice, you won't have to single out the women. You won't have to single out any specific group, because justice is for everybody. Justice is for all. All you have to do is be on the side of justice and fight for justice, and you'll be fighting for women's rights. You'll be fighting for whatever kind of individual rights or group rights that you want. All you got to do is be in the right and be in the fight for justice. So reparations is not only synonymous with justice, but it also means to repair damage that was caused. So we have to understand what type of damage we're talking about. It's being very specific with the damage and who the damage was caused to and who actually inflicted the damage. And we have to repair that. And if the damage was caused by legislation and political action, then the damage can only be fixed by legislation and political action. If the damage came by theft of wealth, then that wealth has to be restored. If that damage came by theft of labor and people not being able to invest their own sweat equity into their pursuit of happiness, then that has to be restored. There is no statute of limitations on justice, and there is no statute of limitations on reparations. The damage must be repaired, and that's why we have to educate people on what reparations is. If you have it in your mind that reparations is just monetary value that we are demanding from specific people or the government, then you're misinformed. Reparations is the all-encompassing repairing of the damage that was caused by the government to a specific group of people that were first introduced as the freedmen. But we now call the freedmen and women of that time are being recognized as the American descendants of slavery today.
That's
right. So we are talking about the descendants of the 4 million people that was just dumped into a political system without no safeguards. We're talking about being transferred from private bondage and then being legislated into public subjugation by local, state, and federal government. We're talking about repairing the damage that the government has done to a specific group of people. And it didn't matter only what if you were male or female, that damage came to that group, the specific group. If you was once connected to the institution of slavery in a way where you was the enslaved, this is your fight. It don't matter if you're a woman. This is your fight because they were stealing your children. They was damaging you and raping you and taking the wealth that you could have inherited from your husband and the wealth that you could have gained from your own labor and passed down to your posterity. They stole that from you. Told you, legislated in law that you couldn't breed, that you couldn't own land, that you couldn't plant seeds, that you had to work and you wouldn't be able to benefit from your own labor. So the government did this. That understand that every fight, civil rights or otherwise, is connected to the damage that was caused after this, from chattel slavery to after the Civil War, and I ain't gonna say the failure of Reconstruction because Reconstruction didn't fail. It was hijacked and it was usurped, and a Reconstruction only cemented and empowered the same criminals who deconstructed the Union in the first place. Fact. So, I'm just trying to catch up with the conversation. I don't want to be too long-winded on this.
You came in right on time, bro. Right on time. I mean, we just flowing with it. I want us to start getting away from some of the baseless rhetoric, man. And we have to become strong advocates in this space. And I was telling people earlier, you couldn't make it on. I was like, you have a political mind. The show don't flow right when you ain't on. Especially when we talk about these topics, like specifically, it is what it is.
We have to understand some things, right? So as educators, and what we must understand is education is the most important thing. We have, in order for us to be crystal clear on what we're dedicated to and where the aims and objectives of this fight is going, it has to be rooted in sound education. So I see Kurt Ty asking Scarlett Windhill, have you read the Willie Lynch papers? Let me tell you, there's no really, the Willie Lynch papers isn't even really a needed source to give one to. We have so much, there's so much surrounding the Willie Lynch letters that's left up to question, and you don't even have to go there. There's so much good quality primary and secondary sources from actual historians, because the Willie Lynch papers is not a product of actual historians, that you can turn to that really depict our horrific experience in this country, psychologically, socially, economically, in any other type of way. You don't have to point no one to the Willie Lynch papers, because that's going to bring up controversy. We need to go straight to real quality source material, real education, not the pseudo education we've been getting. And that's one of the problems. We've been getting a lot of pseudo education, and we haven't been getting the real work that we need. We need to understand Reconstruction on a very surgical level, because this is our history. Reconstruction, civil rights, slavery, the Civil War is the essence of ADOSness. You understand? Chattel slavery and everything that happened up until today. You must understand it, because everything that we're fighting for is vestiges and remnants of things that we were supposed to get during the reconstruction of this country, and we didn't get it because of criminal actions. Very criminal actions. Mainly, the chief responsible person involved would have to be the chief executive officer of the entire nation, which is Andrew Johnson, and his unconstitutional criminal acts, which led him to being the first president that was impeached. Now, the Senate didn't remove him, but he was impeached by the House of Representatives. I think the vote was like 109 to something, but he was impeached during the House, and the Senate just didn't remove him. But you must know your own history. We must be masters of our own history, so that we can articulate our justice claim better than anyone else.
Facts. I want to get into, I kind of want to go back to the Nori statements, man. I want to get back to that, because I don't know how we speak to the people who are celebrities, right? I don't know how we speak to those people. They don't listen to us. If you ain't got a blue check next to your name, or if you are placed as some form of enemy to whatever cause, and we see that in what that I don't know, I'm gonna call him a crab, Talib Kweli did with Yvette and Tone in the ADOS movement, and then all of a sudden he got a new show. Like, I question stuff like that. You know, he got some new live stream show, and we know some people have floated this theory of meritorious manumission, right? I ain't gonna get too deep into that, but I don't know, man. But anyway, I wanted to pull up what the Muslims want real quick. I want to pull this up real quick, because like I said earlier, it's new messengers are on the scene with the message ain't new. The message is old, because our people been fighting for reparations since the 1800s. And people believe that Martin Luther King Jr. was just really trying to integrate us into a burning house. And they misunderstood that statement. So let me just share this real quick, and then I want my brother Josh to come on and read some of the research that he's dug up on this particular topic. All right, what the Muslims want. This is from the Nation of Islam. This is coming directly from their website. Let me see, where are we going to start? Let me blow this all the way up, matter of fact. All right, what the Muslims want. Excerpt from Message to the Black Man in America, 1965, by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. This is the question asked most frequently by the whites and the blacks. The answer to this question I shall state as simply as possible. 1, we want freedom. We want a full and complete freedom. You're asking. This is an ask. You know, when people say you're begging for a handout, my brother Ali Bey, as he said the other night, begging and asking, these are really just synonyms for each other. One just sounds bad, right? Because a beggar is someone that's homeless on the street. He's mendicant. He has his cup and he's holding it up and asking for, for people. That's a beggar. When you owe somebody something, you owe them and you're asking for it back. I may have misquoted my brother Ali. I'm thinking about it right now. But let me finish. Number 2, we want justice, equal justice under the law. We want justice applied equally to all, regardless of creed or class or color. This is what not only was Martin Luther King Jr. fighting for this, in a large part, he achieved it with the passing of the 1965 Civil Rights Act. I mean, he achieved it. He moved the needle. Number 3 says, we want equality of opportunity. We want equal membership in society with the best in civilized society. Basically, we are paying taxes and not being properly represented. Stevie Wonder said it best on his record, Misrepresented People. Well, that was the name of the record, Misrepresented People. I'm just stuck on that line when he said, I ain't going to try to sing it. All right. But taxation without reparations, well, what are we doing here? Right? And this is basically what Elijah Muhammad is saying. And my brother, Dr. Logic, brought this up on one of our previous shows. We paid taxes and we couldn't even go downtown and eat at the restaurants there or get a hotel. The government let this happen. The federal government let this happen. They had the power to step in and do what needed to be done. Number 4, we want our people in America. This is the key. This is the key. We want our people in America whose parents or grandparents were descendants from slaves. That's ADOS. Because the Final Call wrote, I think, 2 or 3 hit pieces on the ADOS movement, all because Yvette Carnell was critical of Farrakhan a couple years ago. I was critical of Farrakhan a couple years ago too. I'm still critical of certain elements of the organization. And I mean, do we have leaders with such thin skin that we have to go at people just because we disagree? That's corny. That's lame. That's not real. And no real leader would have ever let that happen. Period. A real leader would have examined it, looked at it, and said, hey, maybe she thought that was a fair criticism, because that's what I would have done. But I ain't nobody's leader. So let me finish. We want our people in America whose parents or grandparents were descendants from slaves to be allowed to establish a separate state or territory of their own, either on this continent or elsewhere. We believe that our former slave masters are obligated to provide such land and that the area must be fertile and minerally rich. We believe that our former slave masters are obligated to maintain and supply our needs in this separate territory for the next 20 to 25 years until we are able to produce and supply our own needs. That's reparations. That's fair. That is reparations in a nutshell. That is fair right there. So I don't understand this talk that Brother Nori and a lot of people from the Nation of Islam engage in when they say all we got to do is chip in, put our money together, and buy blocks back, or stop spending foolishly. And the economists have already said this is a myth, that somehow we foolishly spend our money on Air Jordans and gold chains and Cadillacs, et cetera, et cetera. Brother Josh, did you have something you wanted to add? I know you have found some research on this regard that was really telling.
Yeah, let me just share my screen real quick. And before I do that, I just want to say what I'm going to share is something that I found when I was reading this book called Color of Money by Mercer Baradaran. It's a book that was talking about Black banking, the history of the racial wealth gap. And what she was talking about was how President Richard Nixon, co-opted the language of, Nixon came, if y'all don't know the history, Nixon came right after Lyndon Baines Johnson, who did the Civil Rights Act. So there was a whole lot of white resentment and anger at the fact that LBJ did the Civil Rights Act. You know, LBJ was a party of the Democrats, who historically was like the party of the right wing white racists. And then after, not too long after that, Richard Nixon was able to capitalize on the resentment of all of those people who were opposing us getting any type of like government aid as far as policy or Civil Rights Act. And so they ended up leaving and going to the Republican Party. So that's just another talking point when a person hits you with the Republican Party is a party of that freed the slaves and all that. Okay, but yeah, after you gave Civil Rights Act, you know, Republicans, Democrats, that were the racists and the Democrat, the white, you know, it's racist anyway. But anyway, they moved to the Republican Party. That's another topic. But I just wanted to say, look, what I'm going to share is dealing with Elijah Muhammad, and is dealing with how Elijah Muhammad was trying to find a lane to get the government to give money. And if anybody from the Nation of Islam has an issue with this, I'm just reading the information. So if you have information you can put out to counter this or disprove this, or to tell another side of the story that we don't have, all I'm going is from what the information I can find. So
definitely, before you go in, I want to just correct what I said earlier. My brother Ali Bey, as I show on the screen, said asking and demanding are synonyms, not begging. I knew I was wrong after I thought I was talking and I thought about it for me. I was like, wait, I may have misquoted my brother. But go ahead real quick, and then Brother Ware L, I want you to come in.
Yeah, I just wanted to say again, before I show this, if anybody from the Nation of Islam has problems with this or has information to give better context or disprove, please come out and share it. You know, but right now this is the information that we found, and it just is what it is. Let me just share it. Hold on. So again, we're talking about the context of, let me see if I can find this. The context, this is coming from a book called, let me zoom out a little bit. Hold on a second. Let me just get out of this. It's
before you do that, man. It was a comment that this sister put up. I just want to go to it real quick. Man, it may be out of the. I think it's out of the. It's this sister put up a comment that was saying that she was homeless or something like that. But yeah, did you find it?
What, you talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got it. I thought you was trying to.
No, go ahead. I was just wanted to pull that comment. I just like want to cast the light on some of this stuff. Like, you got people that's living. Like, man, reparations is the hill that we have to die on. That has to be stressed. Yeah, you can pull it up, bro.
All right, hold on. Let me get that back. Yeah, so this is coming from.
We got some of the Aboriginal, indigenous, autochtons in the chat too. Somebody talk about we ain't come over here on slave ships. We've been over here. You know how that go. But go ahead, bro.
Yeah. So yeah, this is coming from a book called Business in Black and White: American Presidents and Black Entrepreneurs in the 20th Century by Robert E. Weems. So let me just pull up right here where I got it, and it says it says, considering its historic focus on separatist economic and social development, the Nation of Islam predictably emerged as a proponent of Black capitalism during the first Nixon administration. Significantly, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the leader of the nation, appeared willing to seek his own detente with, did I say that right? With white American society, if it stimulated detente, my bad, or whatever, detente. I think that's right. The right way to say it. With white American society, if it stimulated U.S. government support of various nation economic initiatives. The April 17, 1970 issue of Muhammad Speaks contained an editorial essay entitled Black Enterprise, which discussed African Americans' distorted perceptions regarding business enterprise. As John Woodford, editor of Muhammad Speaks, noted, people with little or no knowledge of economics have raged at their enterprising brothers and sisters in public and private. They have labeled them with many terms: black capitalists, black bourgeoisie, etc. Black men and women involved in trade and commercial activity have been scorned for that reason and that reason alone. How ignorant this is. And then it says Woodford went on to discuss black businesses' peripheral role in the U.S. economy, which he graphically described as like a drop of water in a bucket full. Then he announced, when you think of this and then try to figure out how small the black man's share in this U.S. economy is, you see how ridiculous it is for the young and old pseudo-revolutionaries to run around crowning about the evils of black capitalism. Brothers and sisters, black capitalism hardly exists at all. How many black manufacturing firms do you know about? True. But that's kind of not what we want to talk about. Let me read this. It says, besides praising the notion of black capitalism in the pages of Muhammad Speaks, Leon Forrest, a former reporter for the newspaper, noted that early on, the traditionally hard-hitting Muhammad Speaks refrained from attacking the Nixon administration. In his 1994 collection, Essays, Relocations of the Spirit, Forrest offered the following rationale for the seemingly ironic situation. During my first months with the paper, we were under a strict gag order not to say anything against the new administration of President Richard M. Nixon because he had expressed an interest in creating enterprise zones. Does that sound? That's today is like gentrification. I mean,
opportunity zones. Wait, read that. I want y'all people. I hope y'all paying attention. Today, the word is opportunity zones, and we got into that on the show that we did on Trump and Biden. We went into that. Yvette and Tone have absolutely dissected that topic as well. But if you can, just read that part again so that people could understand, like, this isn't this is an attack of sorts on a specific portion of an ideology that's useless for what we're trying to do right now. Not only does it need to be attacked, it needs to be killed and buried 6 feet deep. And if I'm too graphic, so what? Go ahead, brother.
As again, I'm gonna read it again. During my first few months with the paper, we were under a strict gag order, not anything against the new administration, President Richard M. Nixon, because he had expressed an interest in creating enterprise zones for business development within the black community. Self-help programs would deride the failed programs of the Kennedy-Johnson years. Nixon let it be known. Elijah Self-Help Muhammad was certain that President Nixon would be calling on the leader of the Nation of Islam for counsel and maybe with resources and seed money to advance these enterprise zones. Despite the subtle overtures by Elijah Muhammad and Muhammad Speaks to the new president, the Nixon administration did not respond. Consequently, as Claude Clegg writes in his 1997 biography on Elijah Muhammad, An Original Man, The Life and Times of Elijah Muhammad, Muslim emissaries approached federal officials directly in July 1970 to request millions of dollars in aid to train workers in auto mechanics, printing, and other trades. And I'll keep going. Another biographer of Elijah Muhammad, Carl Evans, provided additional insight into why the vehemently separatist Nation of Islam actively sought funds from the Nixon administration. In his 1999 book, The Messenger, The Rise and Fall of Elijah Muhammad, Evans recounts how the nation of Elijah looked with disdain and jealousy at the fundraising activities of Jesse Jackson of Push. And as Evans states, by the early 1970s, Jackson's organizations have received several large grants from the federal government for poverty programs. Muhammad's people were doing the same work, converting unemployable inner city youths into productive members of society, but were doing so with the nickels and dimes collected from members. In the summer of 1970, the Messenger decided to follow Jackson's lead. Predictably, the Black community regarded the nation's request for money from Nixon's administration with incredulity. For example, Barbara Reynolds, an outspoken Chicago-based reporter, noted the paradox of the anti-white, anti-American leader Elijah Muhammad suddenly groveling for money like others labeled by pundits as poverty pimps. Nevertheless, in the end, Elijah Muhammad's economically motivated quest for detente with white America perfectly matched Nixon's politically motivated quest for domestic detente with potentially disruptive segments of Black America. So I'm not gonna. I think that's kind of where it ends on that particular subject. So
look, I want to
go ahead. I'll let you take it.
Because I want my brother Dr. Logic to come in, but I got a camel back off of that real quick. And Josh, I want you to just give a little bit more breakdown if you want to, but I gotta show this real quick because I think it's important and it's hypocritical for somebody to say that we need to just stop this reckless spending and basically we need to put chip money in and do all of this other stuff when we don't even have the money collectively to do that. I want to share this real quick. This is from the Washington Examiner. Now, everybody that knows this website knows it is one of the leading right-wing websites, but it did a report and it showed that the Nation of Islam, as the headline reads, exclusive, Nation of Islam receiving federal cash to teach prisoners. The Nation of Islam and its leaders have received hundreds of thousands of dollars from the U.S. government since 2008 to teach religious study programs for federal prison inmates, according to records reviewed by the Washington Examiner. I'm just going to stop right there. There's no need for me to get deeper into that, but this idea that we could take the little bit that we have, you're preaching this, but the federal government that you are calling the devil and are always at odds with, you're getting contracts from to go up into the prison. Now, I have no problem with that element of it, but the hypocrisy of it, I have a problem with.
Yeah, I just want to say again, like some people probably gonna take this like we taking a shot. Now
I am. I'm taking a shot.
Well, I'm just saying,
I'm taking a shot.
Overall, what we trying to show you is like that strategy doesn't work. That mentality doesn't work. And we just did that. I just pulled that up to show you like the genesis of where some of that ideology comes from, and to show you it didn't come from like a good place. It can't. Now I'll say this too, like I don't see that necessarily is something wrong with trying to get an administration to give you money. Like they're not gonna give us. Trying to get like reparations. I guess he figured like I already asked for reparations when I put out what the Muslims want. We got nothing. So let me just try to work with that organization. That's fine. I'm not even trying to go in on them for doing that. I'm just trying to show y'all where the thinking came from. Like it didn't come from a place where it's genuine, where the Black man can get this. No, it came from Nixon's plan of Black capitalism. Richard Nixon came out with the plan that instead of giving y'all reparations, instead of giving y'all policy that can lift you off the bottom, we're gonna just tell you, we're gonna start a program. We're gonna take the language of Black capitalism, the language that a lot of Black folks are already using at the time, to think that you can use business to since this is a capitalistic society, that you can use business to lift yourself off the bottom. But instead of doing that and putting programs where there was actually capital to help us, you go read Mercer Baradaran's book, The Color of Money. Instead of doing that, they just called it Black capitalism, but they included zero capital.
Yeah, so basically they didn't make any investments into the Black communities, because anytime that you can get a car loan with toxic interest rates and basically criminal interest rates, and anytime you can go to college and get federal loans for thousands and tens of thousands of dollars that put you in debt, which is really toxic debt, but you can't get a small business loan, is let you know that they're investing into your economic slavery and not your economic prosperity. So they won't make an investment into the Black community or to the ADOS community. They make it difficult for you to access capital and access economics. So when you've been shut out systematically through from wealth, this is the type of environment we live in. And then they give you these weird type of policies like enterprise zones and opportunity zones. But if we're truly American citizens, the entire country should be an enterprise zone for us. The entire country should be an opportunity zone for us. We're Americans. America is the opportunity. It's the place of opportunity, right? So what are the zones about? You got to question everything. So I want to deal with something with a couple things real quick that I've seen in the chat that are very problematic. One, I want to go back because I missed it. It says from the this Scarlet Windhill. If we know the damage was caused by white supremacy, then don't blame feminism. We have to do this education. We have to understand this. Feminism is white supremacy. You must understand that. Feminism was started by white women who were upset with their fathers, husbands, and brothers that they did not get to wield the same amount of power and authority of the white supremacy power structure that their male family members did. You understand? They understood. So when they took to the streets and got to fighting their family members, they said, they don't care about what we got to say, and we really don't know how to organize that well. And we're very quite new to this type of fighting. Who can we use or get advice and assistance from? The Black woman. The Black woman has been the backbone to every movement, from the slave revolts to abolition to the Underground Railroad to civil rights, to every movement in America. The Black woman has been the backbone to that movement. So they usurped the Black woman, got her to thinking that the Black woman had a problem, and that the Black woman and the white woman's problem was the same problem, and that y'all had mutual interest. That was a trick. That was deception that they used to bring Black women into the feminist movement. We never had no need for no feminist movement. We don't have time for a feminist movement. All we have time for is a family movement. All because of the way that the Black family and the American descendants of slavery, the freedmen and the freed women, the way our families were destroyed. Until we repair that, I don't want to hear nothing about no feminist movement. We need a family movement. That's a part of the problem. You want rights for women instead of rights for Black families. See, because if you was just on the side of justice, we'd be too busy repairing the broken families. We didn't have time to be fighting for what women ain't getting. And because guess what? We all are getting things taken from us as Black people, whether you're male or female.
Let me just bring a little bit more commentary to that. And this is all on the topic of reparations, right? But it's important. I guess it's a lot of people that think like this. And I'm not saying this is not a shot at nobody. This is like everything we doing. Maybe the taste of it, the pill doesn't taste right. We didn't put enough sugar on the pill or something like that. But it's all constructive. It's all trying to heal. This is reparations talk. So even the talk itself is trying to repair some of the damage. So, if you think about, okay, if you understand this thing from the standpoint of like having a floor and having a ceiling, right? If you improve women's situation, is that gonna stop? Would that have prevented Sandra Bland from getting killed?
Absolutely not.
Would that change the racial the wealth gap between the Black woman and the white woman? I don't think so. The only thing that would do, because the white woman would go up, the Black woman would go up. So I don't know how that helps the overall. And I'm not trying to make this about Black versus white necessarily. I'm just talking about that you can't deny that there's a racial wealth gap, and that's very relevant, going back and tying directly to the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow. And if you helping, going in on them, trying to use your energy to fight for transformation within the gender disparity is not going to lift your floor nor your ceiling the same way as using that energy to fight for transformation with the racial wealth disparity, Because look, even within let's just break this down, right? Think about this. Go and read that book called They Were Her Property. I don't have the author right on hand, but that book it's a very difficult book to read. It's a hard book to get through. It's very descriptive with stories and accounts from the brutality and the harshness of female slave ownership, and in many instances they were more brutal than even the males. But if you go and look at that, like they still transferred us as property. You know, they still transferred us as property. So, you know, if you're going to look at how the wealth is moved generationally, that's if you're looking at improving that situation, that's not necessarily going to help us, you know. But and you know, again, go read that book. Maybe your opinion will change a little bit. But I want to just.
Well, the sister said that she read that book in the comment
Oh,
chat. I don't know if you see it, but she said she read that book.
oh,
But
okay, excellent,
let's
excellent,
not
cool.
let's
We
not
ain't,
dwell on
yeah,
that. You know, we can't change minds in one
it ain't
second.
even about
We
that.
just
Yeah,
putting information out there,
there you go.
and to move on, right? Because we,
I wouldn't call her agent. I wouldn't call her agency. See, you know, some people just it is what it is. It's all good. Let's keep.
right, we some people are, they got their way. So what we got to understand, if family is our nucleus, everything that we talk about is centered around the family. If the woman is suffering, then we're suffering. If the man is suffering, then we're suffering. And we've been attacked, male and female, systematically in a way that no other group in America has. So until we repair the family, man, woman, husband, wife, and children, we're going to be doomed. Now, I want to go back to something else, because we have to understand the difference between real education and pseudo education. A comment in the chat section that said that, fake or not, Willie Lynch and Jim Crow are synonymous. That's just not a fact. Willie Lynch is not legislation. Jim Crow is something that was an outgrowth from the Black Codes. The Black Codes varied in its harshness and application from state to state. We're talking about things that we can really attack. You can't really organize a movement around Willie Lynch, because that's not something that's real. You can organize a movement around reforming the legislation that actually made our family members public subjects. You understand what I'm saying? That's the difference. I understand that the how to make a Negro and all of the rhetoric in the Willie Lynch letters is, you know, it's exciting information, and it makes you look like, okay, wow, but it's not real history. What we want to do is make real transformation from actual things that happen to us that we can go and repair. Actual damage that's recorded on the books through legislation and through other historical archiving mechanisms, and change those things, because that's the evidence of what they did to us. Willie Lynch doesn't really exist. That's fiction. Although in that fiction, there are some real truisms that have been making, you know, that have had happen, but it's not real. So we don't even need to waste our time with fiction, because there's enough real stuff that we can utilize that gives us the same sentiments that you're getting from the Jim Crow. All right. So again, we have to start understanding. Let's bring it all back in. Reparations is justice. If you're anti-reparations, then you're anti-justice. Justice and reparations are synonymous. We want to be repaired for the damage, and the damage was caused by government, so government has to repair that damage. That's plain and simple. We have to be unified on that in the outstart. Then we have to understand that the movements that we have to make sense. The slogans that we use need to make sense. And we need to understand the history on how we got to using some of this rhetoric that we use. Everything that we use to motivate our people politically and for justice needs to make sense. So if we're saying Black power, and if we're saying Black Lives Matter, we have to understand what we're really fighting for is justice. So instead of having a Black Lives Matter movement, we need to say justice matters. You understand? Because in the spirit of Dr. King, he was, in my opinion, one of the most genius men ever to come and do any work for us, right? And work for his people. You got to understand, there has been no strides made in this country without building coalitions. You can't build coalitions with polarizing slogans, right? Regardless to how you feel about that. Justice matters is a slogan that encompasses actual intent, and that's something that everyone can get behind. And it's hard for someone to say, hey, take justice matters. Now, if you had justice matters on a bumper sticker or paint on your car, it's hard for someone to try to try to project some type of wrongness in that type of statement. How are you going to come out and say justice matters? You're going to say all justice matters? Well, then you're still saying the same thing. See, so we have to be mature with the type of slogans that we use. So what happened back when Stokely Carmichael created the Black, well, he didn't really create it, but he kind of popularized the Black Power slogan that we use to this day. It kind of damaged relationships and kind of broke some of the coalitions that were built, because even through abolition, even if you look at the greatest leader in the history of ADOSness, which is, in my opinion, is Harriet Tubman, you don't get the Underground Railroad without a coalition of non-Black folks. You understand? You don't get to be able to free thousands like she did without working with a coalition, right? So when you come with a coalition, when you come with a slogan that says Black Power, that is a polarizing slogan. You got to understand that. So we don't want to neutralize our own power to create allies. You understand? So you must be very intelligent with the type of slogan. So when we say Black Lives Matter, I understand what you mean, and I agree with the message. I agree with that. And Black lives have not mattered enough in this country, and we understand that. But we must also understand that in order for Black lives to matter, we have to have justice. So that needs to be the rallying cry. Justice matters, because we're living in a country where justice obviously don't matter. So that's what we need to be fighting for. We're not really fighting, in essence, for what we're really fighting for is justice, right? Black lives always have mattered to us. So we're not fighting for Black lives to matter. We're fighting for justice. That's what we always have been fighting for. Justice, dignity, equality, all of that is wrapped up in justice. That's what we're fighting for. Those are the type of slogans that are purpose driven that we need to be pushing to the forefront. That's the type of energy that's going to build winning coalitions that we can actually gain some ground and be successful with.
Yeah, and I'm going to do something real quick, because I want to show you an example of how you build coalitions that will not help us win. That will help us to maybe get a disproportionate benefit, but at the end of the day, we will not get justice, and the status quo will remain, and we will use this moment to make people think that they did something significant to change our positionality in America, in the country that we built, and it will be all for naught. It's kind of a co-opt. So I want to show y'all. I'm going to share my screen. I hope our brother Naheem is there to let me to be able to share the screen. Hold on a second, family. Let me see. I'm gonna try to share it. Hopefully he'll see it, and let me know if you can see the screen, brother Dr. Logic. Can you see it?
No, I can't see it. He'd have to bring it up. I know he's in the chat. I see him in the chat. Here you go. There it is.
Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay. First off, I want to say, I gotta say, I want to salute the sister Alicia Garza, for starting the movement and kind of being one of the pioneers of the movement that you see that's called Black Lives Matter. Because the criticism that I have is not necessarily it's not to demean her or paint her as some type of, devil or where can I find her picture at? It's not to try to paint her as somebody that's just like a person that's trying to steal the thunder. I mean, she put in some work. She started a movement, that gained the attention of America. They got a lot of, to help. I mean, this is a hashtag. This is a movement. This is just a language that's powerful. Black Lives Matter. However, you kind of have to understand how people are going to take this and move it in a direction that is not in alignment with what we need. That's not in alignment with where people really think this thing needs to go and has the direction that they believe it's supposed to move in. So you know, this I got this. First off, I'm gonna just want to give her props for putting in some work, put it in the work to getting a lot of this done. But this is not even what I meant to. Let me just Black Futures Lab, Black Agenda. Reason I'm bringing this up is what happened to. Oh, here it is, right here. Reason I'm bringing this up is you gotta understand reparations is what everybody needs to be fighting for in the street. We don't need people to just say Black Lives Matter. We need to say, like brother Dr. Logic say, justice matters. I don't know why this thing taking so long, but justice matters. And what justice looks like is not a rebranded class politics from progressive left-wing Democrats, where like I said, everybody else gets lifted up off the bottom, and we get left at the bottom. But we get something because we are at the bottom. Policies that are going to help more at the bottom are going to disproportionately help us. But that's not justice. That's not justice.
Exactly.
Justice at all. That's what America is supposed to do for America. So what I want you to understand is when you see Black Lives Matter, and if you don't declare that reparations is the hill that you're going to die on, that if you don't say like, look, it's got to be reparations. That like we showed you the economic data. We showed you that only reparations. Maybe we didn't show that in this episode, but go watch past episode. Go watch Tone. Go watch Yvette. Go listen to Dr. Derek. You've heard, you should have heard over time and time again. Reparations is the only thing that will close the racial wealth gap. The racial wealth gap was created by the legacy of Jim Crow and slave and chattel slavery, where we were locked out. We built the country. We created the wealth of the country. We were locked out all this time. Matter of fact, there's another thing I meant to go to. I'm gonna get to before we close this out. But see, look at the language of this thing. The language of this thing says, make Black people powerful in the economy. Make Black people powerful in our society, in our democracy, in our communities, legal system, our families, right? Make us powerful. Does that sound like the language where we still on the bottom? Or does that sound like the language where we got some power?
Yo, and check it out. Look at what you're saying, right? Look at what they're saying without even knowing. And this is why this education is important. They're asking for reparations, and they don't even know it. All they have to do is say it. If you're saying that if we have to be made powerful economically, why aren't we powerful economically after we're the people who built the country? You got to ask that question. If we want to make Black people powerful in our society, well, what's making us powerless and locking us out of power, right? We're being systematically locked out, right? It's been policy, government policy that has us economically excluded from the country, right? Make Black people powerful in our democracy. Well, what is keeping us powerless in a democracy in states like Mississippi, where 50% of the population is Black, right? You have slave legislation that's baked into state constitutions that never were properly reformed when Reconstruction was happening. When Reconstruction was happening, the Southern states' constitutions were supposed to be redone in a way that reflected equal justice for all people, but it didn't happen because you had a accident president, Andrew Johnson, who basically appointed provisional governors who were criminals and who are the same people who raged the war and were the rebels in the first place, and basically said, it's up to y'all. Just write me a letter and let me just tell me how it went. So there was no federal oversight on these constitutional conventions that was supposed to reform their state constitutions. All they had to do was ratify the Reconstruction Amendments, and they were admitted back into the Union. No federal oversight or no federal pressure was saying, well, hold on, the 14th Amendment needs to be live and have that breath inside your state constitution of saying that all citizens will have equality or fair and equal treatment and access. Instead, we got Black codes. Instead, we got vagrancy acts. Instead, we got convict leasing. Instead, we got Jim Crow. You understand? That's the type of governmental damage and negligence that reparations is going to address, and what reparations has to be fought for. If it wasn't for the government allowing the state representatives and state senators that we had in office, who were supposed to be a part of the reforming of the state constitutions, they were driven out. White allies were killed. You understand this? They were killing people by the hundreds, murdering people, driving people unconstitutionally out of their seats. So we didn't get no representation. That's why we don't have power in the democracy, right? We, the Black people, need to be powerful in our families. Well, what destroyed the family power structure in Black America? Then reconstruct. We have to understand reparations is for slavery and everything that was supposed to happen in Reconstruction that didn't happen. The federal census said that 4 million people were introduced to the society and they didn't have no government protection. They were homeless. This is the first time you have a homeless problem in America. This is the first time you had an unemployment problem in America, because now you have 4 million people who don't have jobs. You have 4 million people who don't have homes. And then you have white folks who would murder and kill other white folks if they even hired you and paid you a decent wage. This is ADOSness. You understand? This is ADOSness that we're talking about. This is why we have to have reparations. We're talking about a place in a society where our family members lived in a society where that if they were too prosperous, it literally could cost them their lives.
Your death sentence.
Just for being successful. Just for having a home. Just for being educated. Just for being we lived in a your sound's back on, brother Abbott.
Yeah, I'm having I don't know what's going on, man. I might switch applications because this just keeps happening where my mic is. I mean, I went out and brought a whole new computer and a whole nines.
Yeah, he moved it back out. I don't know. Whatever you did, do it again, bro. But so you have to understand how serious that is. We live in a place that you could literally be killed for being successful. Yeah, I'm talking about this ADOS life is so specific that just being able to read could cost you your life in this place. Just being able to read, man. And we're talking about living in a country where they had literacy laws, right? Then they gave you, when Black folks achieved suffrage and was able to vote, they had literacy laws. So they say, okay, yeah, you can vote, but you have to read this piece of paper first to prove that you're literate. But then they still had it that it was illegal for Negroes to know how to read. So if you were found being able to read that piece of paper, they'd lock you up and wouldn't let you vote. This is ADOSness. This is why reparations is important.
Your children, when they were at least 2 years old, they could take your children. 2 years old, 10 years old. I forgot. It was I think it was Mississippi or South Carolina. They take your kids and put them into apprenticeship at 10 years old, and you couldn't do nothing about it. Basically, they would enslave your children, and you had to give them up. You know. So, but I wanted to go into this because, again, this is kind of how, if we don't make a point of it, if we don't press the issue, this moment of when we get our brothers and sisters killed, when they get murdered by police, when they get murdered by these white supremacist impunity, and that's just a long listen. They're just another body on a long body count that we've seen under Trump, under Obama, under Bush, under Clinton, under all of them, going all the way back to the first president, right? Rarely, if ever, any justice. And this time America turned up. And they did it, and we were seeing Black Lives Matter being painted everywhere. They painted Black Lives Matter on the street. I don't know what street it is, I forgot, but it's right in DC, right a couple blocks from the White House, right? A block from the White House. Okay, you do that, but then, what about, it's ironic that you do that in a city that's been gentrified like I don't know what. Like if you look at the racial wealth gap in DC, the middle Black family, native Black ADOS family, excuse me, is worth $3,500. The middle Indian American family is worth I think it's 573,000. The middle white families worth 384,000. We worth 3,500 in the country where slaves built the Capitol, they built the White House, and we've been foundational to the country. How is that possible? And how, like, what is the Black Lives Matter? Then you should be pushing for reparations to show us that we matter, you know, and so we can reflect it with foundation. So let me just show you, like, how. Oh, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I want to jump in real quick. I've been out. I don't know what's wrong with this thing, but I want to. My brother Ali Bey put something in the inbox, and I want to share that because it's important. And can y'all see that?
Yeah.
All right. It says, the world has never seen any people turned loose to such destitution as were the 4 million slaves of the South. They were free without roofs to cover them, or bread to eat, or land to cultivate, and as a consequence died in such numbers as to awaken the hope of their enemies that they would soon disappear. Frederick Douglass, Celebrating the Past, Anticipating the Future, 1875. If y'all watched the last show when my brother Dr. Logic and I were reading from the Bloody Shirt, we spoke about this, about how many of them have not, how many of them, once they freed us, we would rather, we wasn't trying to go back to that. We would rather have been homeless, and they had a chance to fix that then. Right now, our people, largely ADOS people, represent over 50 and maybe 60% of the homeless population in the United States of America. How does that happen in a place that the ancestors built the wealth that everybody else has been eating off of? How are we homeless? I'm not a Christian, but the Bible says the meek shall inherit the earth. It says the first shall be last and the last shall be first. This is why reparations has to become the fight from now on, because you can't tell a homeless person, hey man, chip in $5 a month so that we could buy back the neighborhood and buy back the block. Like, where's the logic?
Well.
How are you, with what wealth? What are you looking at? What are you not seeing? What connections are you not making in your own mind with the statistics that are pouring out right now, particularly coming from someone like Dr. Darity? Ta-Nehisi Coates, we could criticize him, and rightfully so, because he didn't push back on Barack Obama in that interview. But that piece he did in The Atlantic, the case for reparations, have you not read or listened to the audio of that on SoundCloud? What are you all listening to? What are you listening to? You people are a problem. And this is why we're here now. I don't know what it takes to get in blue check space, but all I know is we're going to keep fighting. And wherever I see these comments, I don't care how cool we are, or if you think you are a big star, I'm commenting on the post. I'm commenting, and I'm going to keep dropping that wealth data to show that these are not solutions. They're not. They're just wishes and dreams and hopeful aspirations, sayings that make you sound like you're saying something deep by saying that, oh, our people spend unnecessarily on things that are unnecessary with people who don't care. No, man, shut up with that nonsense. Like, somebody needs to just stand up and say that, yo, dude, shut up. We ain't trying to hear that no more. Go ahead.
Yo,
bro.
what's the brother's name? Ted Hayes?
Yeah, Ted Hayes.
The brother Ted Hayes does an excellent account of
Shout out
the
to Ted
ADOS.
Hayes.
Shout out to Ted Hayes. He does an excellent account of speaking to the ADOS homelessness situation. But what I wanted to talk about is that little clip that Naheem just read, and it's the homeless situation that we still fighting today started with them first 4 million ADOS. Started with them first 4 million. They made us homeless. They made us homeless. First of all, they were our private property because they were so hateful that they couldn't own our bodies no more. They just allowed us to be homeless. The government didn't do. The government failed. That was government failure. You knew what the situation was that civil war caused. You did not set up any programs and institutions to properly handle 4 million free men and women. There was no sanctity. There was no safe havens. It was just homeless and starving. And there's accounts of people who could just see scores and scores of Black bodies just wandering the earth back in them. It was a horrific. This has been a horrific story, and this is why we are so passionate in the telling of ADOSness, and why we're so protective of this legacy, because our families had to live through this, and we fought to get to where we at here today. And there's a whole lot of fighting to do, and we're not going to let nobody come and undermine this justice claim.
That's right. And I wanted to just go and show me, if you don't mind, let me share my screen again, just so I can show y'all what I'm talking about when I'm talking about. Let me know when y'all can see this. Can y'all see this? Can y'all see my screen? Let me see. Okay, cool. All right. So again, this is coming from Alicia Garza's group, Black Futures Lab, and this is I'm showing you this because I'm telling you, this is kind of what is going to be proposed. This is kind of what I believe is going to end up being at the table, if they get to the table, if we don't push back on it early enough, preemptively. Because everybody, the attention is behind Black Lives Matter. And the person who's behind Black Lives Matter is called Alicia Garza. That's her name. And she got a bunch of money to do this thing called Black Futures Lab, which is a bunch of other interests involved with big money. And she got a chance to do this survey, which surveyed the Black community. But let's look at the language, make Black people powerful. That sounds like you're getting reparations, don't it? And before I even go in on this, I just want to say I'm not against a lot of what she shares in here. I'm just against the fact that it's marketed as a Black agenda when it's really like an all lives matter agenda, And so she talks about the issue, some issues in here. But you notice that when she talks about when she gives data, like 52% of Black census respondents believe that politicians don't care about Black people. Yeah, I mean, we could guess that, 81% of Black census responders strongly support Black Lives Matter. I would believe that would be the case. I don't think that was a far-fetched thing to I don't know, like, if we needed a survey to come to that conclusion, but it was helpful to get the data. I'm not going to not get in the data. 86% of Black census respondents believe that it is the role of government to solve socioeconomic problems and bridge the gap between rich and poor. So favor expanding and increasing in government aid for people who need it. Yeah, we know all that. And again, I think Yvette Carnell did a show last summer where she kind of talked about, she broke this census down. And she broke down, maybe some problems with the data of how they're sourcing like disproportionate groups, maybe the disproportionate amount of LGBT compared to their representation in America as far as the population, and maybe some conflict of interest between her affinity for that group may result in why they're overrepresented in this census. But I'm not going to go into that. But let's go to the economy. Okay, 86% of Black census respondents believe it's the role of the government to solve economic problems to bridge the gap between rich and poor. Yeah, of course we would believe that. That's called reparations. So with this census, she's basically saying that, I don't care what anybody, when people call it reparations, right? The people we've been programmed to have I'm not saying us that maybe be watching this program, but a lot of people in America, especially our people, we're so programmed because of the social engineering program of Richard Nixon, and thinking that you need to lift yourself by your own bootstraps, and you hating government handouts, even though other groups got handouts. I'm going to show you that in a little bit too. That we triggered to go to speak against reparations. But when we say the government has a role to play to solve the social economic problems, 86%. You look at the reparations argument, it's way less than that. I think it was like 70 or 50% or something like that. Anyway, 79% of blacks, and I'm not going to go into all of this. How this is all lives matter. If you notice that, let's look at this right here. Examine the impact of slavery in the U.S. and develop a reparations proposal to harm. Now, you notice how she put this in italics. All diasporic descendants of enslaved people.
Like, what does that even mean? That doesn't even
So what
make
that
any
means
sense.
is, if you come from, if you're quote unquote black, if you come from a black country that they were enslaved by any European, then we need to have U.S. Congress enact legislation that considers you in the payout of
Yes.
reparations that go to the black folks of America that descend from slavery.
They want, so let me just frame that real quick. They want domestic repair for foreign damage. You were damaged in a foreign country, but you want to be repaired domestically by America. That's not how this works, family.
No.
And that's what people are trying to do, and they've been doing ever since we created civil rights in this country. You've had no immigrants really didn't want to come over here in no significant way until we created an environment that made it attractive. We created civil rights in this country. We built civil rights with our blood and bone in this country. So the fact that they want to come over here now and be like, oh, they don't want to build a reparations movement in their own country. Where's the reparations movement in Jamaica? Where's the reparations movement in Haiti? Where's the reparations movement in West Africa? Where's the reparations movement in Brazil? And if they have them, good, I support them. But you don't get to come here and get consolidation and reconciliation for crimes that were committed in foreign countries. That's not how that's going to work. ADOS is first in line. Everyone else got to get in the back.
That's right. And so this, I'm gonna just shift real quick to this, and I'm gonna come back to this report that was done in 2017. It's called The Road to Zero Wealth. It's by Deidre Asante Muhammad, and I think Dark Hamilton was on that. I can't remember the institution that did this, but it was a powerful, powerful report that was put out that really opened up a lot of, it really made a lot of things clear. Anytime you hear us talking about, well, the middle black family were $1,700 because we've taken out depreciating assets, I got that information. I was able to find the sourcing, and I think I saw that on this report. Anyway, let's look at when the government boosts groups and when they block groups, right? So the government boosted us with the Freedmen's Bureau and the 13th and 14th Amendment. Now, that was about it. Other than that, and then we know the Freedmen's Bureau was looted, and the states didn't uphold, they did all kind of black codes and stuff to work around the 13th and 14th Amendments for us. But you look at land grants went to colonists before America got its independence. Then there was a gold rush land claims, open doors of European immigration, Naturalization Act, Preemptive Acts, Homesteads Act, home mortgage interest deductions. Then we look at how we were blocked. Okay, this is other groups, but Indian Land Removal Act, slavery in the Constitution, fugitive slave law, Jim Crow laws, Plessy segregation, all these things, right? Then you look at, I think this is from the 1920s on, Asian naturalization, Cuban Refugee Assistance Act, Japanese reparations, civil rights and affirmative action, which we did not get a net benefit. Most of the benefit went to white women. Amnesty for immigrants, right? New Deal, federal housing loans, Social Security, labor rights. We were locked out of all of that. GI Bill, locked out of that. There was a study in Mississippi, 1947. I believe it was like over 3,000 something GI Bill claims in the state of Mississippi. You know how many black folks got? 3. In the state that probably was majority ADOS. Tax cuts for asset owners, and this is just up to 1997. Then you get like the Great Depression. You at the bottom.
Yo, it's real.
Go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, since you mentioned Mississippi, like, we got to understand, like, a lot of these places like Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, right? They're looked at as poor states, right? But if you go back to, pre-Civil War, these were the richest states in the country because their entire economy's GDP was built on the backs of our family members through slavery, through forced labor. And the fact that these states are some of the poorest states in the country now is a direct reflection on the fact that they didn't want to do nothing else but slavery, because the ecosystem hasn't changed. Those are still very strong agriculturally rich states, but they don't want to do nothing but slavery. A lot of that land is still in private hands, and they don't want to pay just wages for people to do an honest day's work. So you still got the remnants and the residue of a slave attitude and culture and the resistance to fairness and justice alive and well in those states. That's why they're poor, because they don't want to let go of slavery. And if those countries just wanted to just mechanize and industrialize their agricultural geography of those states, they could be rich states again. But those states are still constituted with slave language, ran by the descendants of slave owners who still hate us and are still upset, still carrying that hatred and resentment that they can't own our bodies. So they'll rather let the entire state fail than to be fair.
And I'm coming back. I just wanted to show you like the history of what we went through all this time over here, and then largely, if you understand that before 1960. The amount of Black immigrants that were in the United States was to the right of the death. It was like less than 1%, 0. Who knows, might be 0.1% or whatever. But, and the bulk of them came in the 80s underneath Ronald Reagan or after that time period. So how does it make any kind of sense that like you get included on the justice claim? No, like that's why they have CARICOM. The damage was, like you said, this is domestic repair, and we don't need it to get foreign damage. So what I would say is, hey, if you want to study that, that's fine. That's fine. But that doesn't mean you get in on the claim. That's not justice. What we're talking about is justice. And that's not justice. That's an injustice. You want to have a separate commission to study how the United States foreign policy affected, people in other countries and how their wealth levels are reflected here. That's a separate commission that you need to form. That's a separate commission but to try to think that because we're getting reparations over here, because we have a unique contribution. It's not only do we have a unique harm, we have a unique contribution. And why we have a wealth disparity is not the same reason why necessarily you have, definitely not the same reason why you have this, there's a wealth disparity. Because a lot of times you come from these countries and then you just get here. Like what we're saying is like, we're foundational. We're supposed to have infrastructure where we own in land, we own in factories, we own in farms, we own in levels of production and infrastructure. We own in office buildings, we own in all of these things. We have many people owning corporations. There's a Black Steve Jobs, there's a Black ADOS, Bill Gates, there's an ADOS, all represented on board of directors of all these major corporations. But we don't have that. It was locked out. That's not the same story. So all I'm saying is this is a grift. This is like this is theft. This is not justice. But if we're not specific, and when we ask for reparations, this is what we're gonna get. Now, a lot of this stuff here, minimum wage, or affordable housing. Of course, we believe we wanted that. That stuff I believe in, and I believe that should be fought for. But this is not it's not necessarily a Black agenda. It's not the chief thing that we're fighting for in this moment. Affordable housing. Go to 1.com/Black agenda. You can find all this. I'm gonna let you speak. I just want to get down to this one thing real quick, bro. I just want to get it down to this one thing right here. We're not for open borders. If you notice, like this, what she does is she uses the census data to back up why she has certain agenda items. But then when you get down here to immigration, it's not. She doesn't use the census item data, the census data for that. Why? Because did she not ask us what our opinion was on it? Did she not care, or did she get the results and she didn't see that it made the argument for this to be added to a Black agenda? Now, black agenda of our black immigrant family. Peace to y'all. Like we definitely need policy that makes y'all that black agenda period will help y'all out. Because that's getting rid of all discrimination. But that again, what we're talking about is a specific harm here that's coming from the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow that's manifested in the wealth gap. Like illegal immigration and stuff like that is not helping us. That's deleterious to us. And even like, how cities and towns and states have policy to kind of ignore what we need that they created from the damage they created, and kind of importing labor and importing skilled jobs and giving assistance. Antonio Moore did a great show this past week talking about how Somalis and some Scandinavians were giving special provisions to come to America to work and live, whereas George Floyd was broke. But his ancestors built the country. He came up there and he died with a knee to his neck and unemployed with coronavirus. So that's just kind of what I wanted to say with this. This right here is good. A lot of it is good. I'm in agreement with a lot of it. But don't try to paint this as a black agenda. The black agenda, at the front of a black agenda, it needs to be reparations to ADOS and nobody else. How you can make black folks powerful in the economy, society and community, democracy, families, legal system, do reparations, period. And we can address a lot of the other stuff separate, but don't try to cloak all lives matter, Bernie Sanders or progressive Democrat agenda as a black agenda trying to co-opt this moment. And I just want to unshare, then I'm gonna be quiet for a while.
All right, no doubt. You low. I can hear you. You real low though, bro. I heard that come through, but it's real low.
Right, just go ahead, bro. Just take us out, brother. Just go into your spill and just take us out. I don't know what's going on with this thing, so
I can hear you now, though.
Is it clear?
It's clear. It's just a little low.
All right, but just go ahead. I'll try to close it out with just a brief statement. We passed the 2-hour mark.
Okay. All right. I think this was necessary, but I wanted, while Josh was going in, I wanted to jump in real quick with something that he said. I hope y'all are still remembering everything. He was giving y'all a lot of information, very good information. But when he mentioned like what seems to be her tone deafness of what Black people are in need of at this time, and when putting together this entire agenda, it seems kind of to be like doesn't have the right focus. And that's the product of what's happened when a grassroots movement is co-opted by outside money. Grassroots movement has to be grassroots funded. You have to understand that. In order for a movement to stay loyal to the original intents, aims, and purposes, it has to say grassroots funded and operated and controlled. Anytime you got millions and millions of dollars pouring in from private hands, the spirit, the purity of the movement is going to be corrupted, soiled, and lost. You have to watch out for that. This is an old trick. Like anytime Black folks start to organize, you get some outside private or special group or some other person with a large purse saying, hey, and dangling dollars in front of you to try to compromise the integrity of the movement. You have to watch out for that. That's why Black Lives Matter didn't start with this woman. That was something that people on the streets was screaming. This woman made an organization out of it, and it got funded by a bunch of other folks. That was what actual people in the streets were screaming. That was a grassroots thing. The people with money came and took over that thing and turned it into everything else but actual Black Lives Matter. That's why the rally cry has to be about justice. So, and we're going to continue to give this education every chance we get. We're going to keep trying to not only hit you with the wealth data, but the damage data as well, because you have to understand the damage. You understand? You got to understand the wealth, our wealth position, and you got to understand the degree of damage that has been done to us.
We bringing the receipts.
That's how we bringing that all the way up in the receipts, man. So we have to understand that reparations is about the repair and the restitution of damage caused by the government to our specific group. And once we understand that, we'll know that all of our political fights need to be framed that way. And stay tuned to next time. I'm closing out what I got to say with that. Abba, I know we can hear you still. You're gonna give us some last words. We can hear you, just I guess you got to get a little closer to the mic.
All right, can you hear me? How do I sound?
Crystal clear.
All right, cool. I don't know.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead,
bro?
brother. Go ahead.
I just want to say again, because I know it's going to be some people watching this that are probably, I would consider an ally from whatever different group. What I wanted to the reason why I spent time going through that is because if you are truly an ally, if you're truly the person that believes in justice, if you're truly a person that that understands, like you watch some of the videos, you read some of the books, you're well versed in the history, you have friends or family that have gone through things, like it's on your heart or whatever the case may be to want to fight, and you're out in the street with us, protesting and doing all that kind of stuff, right? If you're really about the life, then don't, please, when it comes time for policy to be pushed, when it comes time for a move to be made, don't allow, like, you see this information, speak up on it. Be like, nah, this is not right. This all lives matter stuff. We criticize other people for saying all lives matter when we saying Black lives matter, but then when it's time to do policy, like when people are saying all lives matter, we don't say Black lives matter when it comes to promoting policy. So if you're seeing this, understand that start pushing for reparations. Say justice matters, and justice look like reparations. That's all I wanted to say.
Definitely. Do I still sound clear?
Now you clear.
Bro.
All right, good. I mean, I don't know what's going on with this thing, but either way, we got through the night show. I hope you all enjoyed it. We are trying to continue on with bringing the data and the statistics and the historical references to show that nothing is more important than our reparations claim. Like my brother Josh just said, like, that's justice. Black Lives Matter, that chant now has to be specific. It has to be changed. And my brother just showed you how this movement is a co-opting movement. And everybody is going to try to co-opt the movement because it has momentum now. And the devils, as I call them, the racists and they're looking and they're watching. So they know who to pick and who to promote and how to do it. We have to be diligent in this fight. We have to know that, let me go back. Reparations is the hill that we have to die on. What does that mean? It's a metaphor, meaning you have to do something with so much belief and so much conviction that you are willing to give your life for it. It's proverbial, but it can be literal as well. I'm for both ways. If it's going to get my people the justice that they need, we need people out there to have the same exact smoke that they have right now. We have to find ways to elevate our voices. Those of us who are fighting for reparations, those of us who are on a specific code, we need to elevate each other so that people will know. And like, I connect to a specific type of circle that might not be watching everybody else, but they listen to me. So I try my best to parrot some of the information that I hear. That's what my brother Josh is doing tonight with the data and going through the elder Sandy Darrity's book and bringing out excerpts and showing this information and why it is so important and pertinent that we push and we consistently, incessantly push for reparative justice. It is the only way that we become whole in this country. It is the only way that our conditions start to change. One self-help guru said, and I believe this wholeheartedly, that when there's a betterment of the individual, then there's a betterment of the system. And when there's a betterment of the system, there's a betterment of the individual. We're not better. We are a broken people, generation after generation after generation. We are passing down poverty. And if that cycle is not broken now, we'll continue to pass down poverty for generations. It is up to us right now, right in this moment, right now. We must seize the moment, people. We must seize the moment. The moment is clear. We cannot let that Gaza woman talk about diasporic claims of respiration and talk about open borders. We don't care about any of that stuff. I'll just have to be blunt. It's not our fight. That's the immigrants' fight to bring their people over and help their people, which the government clearly has been doing for the past 20 years while ignoring us. That is not our fight. Our fight has to be raising our economic positionality in this nation. We can't be 14% of the population, but only controlling less than 3% of the wealth. If we are 14% of the population, we should be controlling 14% of the wealth. That's fairness. That's equality. That's Black Lives Mattering. So one day we might do a show called Black Lives Matter versus Black Lives Matter and really dissect this thing from beginning to end, because what Brother Josh has pointed out, Brother Tone and Sister Yvette has pointed out with this movement is detrimental to our plight, because the only thing the Republicans and Al Sharpton with his whole thing that he's doing in August, I think August 26th or August 28th, somebody had put it in the chat, that is not going to represent us. They're not going to get up there and talk about reparations. Where was Al Sharpton? Where was he when Byron Allen was fighting the Supreme Court? He was nowhere. He was in the pocket of Comcast and MSNBC, or as Trump calls them, MSDNC. These people don't care about our reparations, but they have to now. It's being published again in the newspapers. Brother Antonio Moore said something critical in his last video, and I want to repeat some of that here. Eric Garner was killed selling loose cigarettes, choked to death. Brother George Floyd asphyxiated by a knee, the weight of another man to his neck, for allegedly passing counterfeit $20 bills. When we start to break down the why Eric Garner is out there, then wasn't there another brother in Louisiana, I think it was? The cops rustled him down to the floor. One cop just pulled his gun out and shot him in front of a store. I think that was Louisiana. I'm not sure. Somebody correct me in the chat if y'all know what I'm talking about. Yeah, August 28th. Thank you, Sister Nicole. Why would a man have to stand outside of a store and sell loose cigarettes? Why would a man have to pass off $20 bills, counterfeit $20 bills, in the richest nation in the world that his foreparents helped make rich? If this doesn't drive your thinking, if this doesn't stoke your reasoning, Alton Sterling, thank you, since I'm here, one in the chat. Alton Sterling murdered in cold blood. They were just wrestling on the ground. I think he was selling DVDs or something like that outside of a store. Why do we have to do these things in the richest country in the world? Let this message Let the message of those who are genuine about reparations, because all of them are not, let this message resonate with your soul. Let this be a part of the armor that you wear as we run in with our own battle cry. No reparations, no vote. Taxation without representation is a thing that we are constantly living through right now. That ends now. It's over with. So again, I'll leave you with my mantra in the name of this show. Don't just fight the power, become the power, and then you will have the power to make a change. And with that, I say peace.